And that was Metallica with The Call of Cthulhu off of Ride the Lightning. And when I find my sheet, I can tell you what else I played. Sabotage before that with Prelude to Madness off of Hall of the Mountain King, and Vision Divine with Nemesis off of Send Me an Angel. That wraps up an abbreviated version of Mostly Metal, because I am now joined in the studio by the guys in Pinnacle FC, TK0 and Drex Odell.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for coming in. We're
Great start. Top notch. That's what we bring.
Well, we're brilliant. That's what we do, right?
Every time.
there you go. I appreciate the They Live t-shirt, by the way. That's pretty awesome. Yeah. So we're going to talk wrestling for like an hour on the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program. This is WVLP 103.1 FM in Valparaiso, and it is time to get that business started.
Your insubordination will not be tolerated.
And we're back. This is Ken the Metal Professor on the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program here on WVLP, and I'm sitting across from Drex Odell and TK0, the gentlemen in the tag team Pinnacle FC, which is on their way to great things in the Indiana wrestling world and beyond. And
yeah, if people stop stealing our championship belts, that'd be really cool too.
Well, you know,
we got to share.
You know, this, I mean, there was all kinds of shenanigans last night, so I don't know how else to explain it, right?
It's very frustrating when we get shenanigans. I do not like to be bamboozled.
Or bambinoozled.
That would also be very accurate to say. The one thing, before we get going, I have to ask you, since I'm actually here, the intro. Who is that's talking in the intro?
Oh, come on, mate. You can't tell me.
You
don't know that's Rod Street?
Is it?
That's
Rod
Officer
Street's
Rod
voice.
Street. Yeah. I had a little digital recorder, and I was catching some sound noise, and he started his promo, and I got it back and listened to it. I was like, oh, this is perfect.
Well, if I had
So I
known
just
who it
blended it
was,
in.
I wouldn't have asked the question.
Oh, well, you know, hey.
Well, I mean, you could be like doing the Socratic method, and you're asking the question for the benefit of others that don't know. And,
That's
and
what
they
I was
don't
doing.
Feel,
That's what I was doing.
they don't feel embarrassed
You see?
by
That's
having
what
to
I
ask
did.
themselves then.
Everybody's
So.
welcome.
That's
Once
quite a
again.
brilliant cover up there, yeah.
Well, here's what we're going to do. It was a very busy wrestling weekend, so I am going to tell everybody about the results from the Crash Tested Wrestling show just across the state line last night, and then these guys were on the New Generation Wrestling show down in Crawfordsville, and they will tell you everything that happened and will remain impartial during this this discussion.
I'm actually known as the most impartial wrestler.
The best.
If
The
you
best
want,
impartial wrestler ever.
I'm the bigliest. The bigliest at neutrality. Okay.
I can tell.
Thank you.
And then, if the technology works right, our friend J.C. Bunyan will be calling in from Warsaw to tell us everything that happened at Functified Wrestling's Rampage that happened out there last night. So I broke my rule about not going across the state line to watch wrestling, and I have that rule because there's already too much to keep track of in Indiana. And if I let myself remember that there's stuff going on in Illinois and Chicago too, I'm never going to be home. There's just too much stuff. So I said, I'm not.
Why go home?
Well,
at the end of the day, why see family? That's what I say.
Well, you got to
bring your
feed
dog
the dogs.
and you're good to go.
Yeah,
We'll bring them what?
You know, that could be a thing. Like, you know, you can bring dogs to baseball parks nowadays for special games. Maybe you bring your dog to the ring wrestling event.
I have a friend, actually, when he comes to visit, his dog is actually a training dog. He's trained to be special needs.
Uh-huh.
And so he actually does bring the dog because it's a dog for that. So he doesn't need it, but because he is in the program, he has to keep it used to it. So he always brings his dog. So every now and then you might see a big old like English black lab out there that's super friendly.
Oh, nice.
So just get that license. Get
And
him trained
nobody
up, and then you
body
never have to
slams
see-
it just for giggles?
It would eat you. It's big. It's big.
It is friendly, though. Skyrim, right?
Yeah,
Skyrim's a very nice dog.
Oh,
My dog would just
Nice
start
name.
going barking and then eat whoever was attacking me in the ring.
Mine would just curl up in a ball and not pay attention because he's 15 years old and he's half blind, half deaf, so.
And then there's also that.
Okay.
Sorry, I've distracted you
That's
from
okay.
what you've been attempting to do for 5 minutes now.
That's why we have an hour. So at this show last night, there was a big name on hand. Eric Bischoff was there, and he came out and said hi to the crowd, and then disappeared and wasn't seen again, except for maybe the people that paid to get autographs. Maybe he was outside. So there was a pre-show match between somebody I think named Barry Ryan and Devon Banks, and then the main show opened up with a four-way for the women's championship of CTW. It was Angel versus Casey Dillon versus Kylie Ray versus the current champion Renee Van Peebles. And the special guest referee was Moxie Molly, which does have a connection back here because apart from performing at NGW, you guys perform around here. We see you at ACW, and Moxie Molly is, for those that don't know, is otherwise known as Mrs. Maverick Cage, who is now going to be reappearing at ACW in a few months, May. I think. Yep, May. And Jimmy Holmes was here last week to talk about that. So Angel ended up winning that match. The next match was Jared Priest against the White Phenom. Now, have you seen the White Phenom before?
Yeah, and I believe that gentleman has had several different names. One of them we cannot say publicly, at least in mixed company.
I'm excited for him to tell me off air.
He was a really, really interesting character, and I can't even begin to describe him, but maybe he has YouTube videos or something. Mm-hmm. They made the big announcement that kendo sticks would be legal in this match, which got people very excited. A kendo stick did come out, and then also two doors and got shattered, and some chairs, as well as the kendo sticks. Tony Rican and Mike Horning had a amazing no-holds-barred match. They brought out chairs and two ladders and thumbtacks, and they were flopping and dropping all over the place. Mike Horning ended up winning that one. And then there was a tornado tag team match for the tag team championships. One team called, the shorthand is ARC. Their full name is Action, Reaction, Consequences, I believe. The N-Words and Zero Gravity, and then another team who I didn't actually get their name because the sound system was and they had some videos, and I could cheat because some videos the screen would actually show the name of the MP4 file at the bottom. I said, oh, that's what their name is, but this one I just didn't catch. And ARC ended up winning that one. The interesting thing about this was the team, the N-Words, and I'm not using that as like a euphemism. I mean, it was NWORDS, right?
Yeah, that's the name.
And the funny thing was that their logo is the old NWO logo with RDS at the end. And I'm wondering if Eric Bischoff's in the building. And I don't mean to cast aspersions, but I'm guessing in this industry there's a lot of borrowing and not a whole lot of recognition of copyright once in a while, and I'm wondering if the man who helped invent the NWO business, what he thought about his old logo being used.
Well, I mean, I think it's akin to when Weird Al Yankovic does a song. It falls under. I apologize. I'm leaning far away from the microphone. I believe when Weird Al does a song, it's obviously a parody. And parodies are covered under certain
fair
laws,
use.
Fair use. But Weird Al always got permission first. As we all know, if you don't know the story about him and Coolio, you might want to look it up and read about that. But yes, in wrestling, there's always a little bit here borrowed and taken a little bit, and there's always parodies. There's Bullet Club parodies out there. There's NWO parodies, as you know. But I'm sure Bischoff just looked at it and went,
Probably. And I can also imagine him going, say, hey, guy, I want to talk to you guys for a minute. And they just look at him like, what? And he'd say, nothing. Have a good day. Because they're big. Max Holiday took on James Storm, and James Storm won, and he came to work. That was really neat to see somebody brought in like that. And it wasn't just about signing autographs. And they both put in a lot of work in that match. That was a lot of fun. The match that brought me out there for the most part was Greg Glover versus John Hudson for Hudson's Tri-State Championship. They went for quite a while. That was a terrific match. At the end of the match, Hudson won the match. Glover was not happy about that and speared him and left him laying in the ring. And CTW must have a Money in the Bank sort of arrangement. So one of the people in Hudson's crew that came to the ring was wearing a gold crown on his head. And I just thought he was being silly, and the kids were chanting Burger King at him. But apparently it's like a magic ticket kind of thing, because once he saw Hudson laying in the ring, he got up in the ring and gave his crown to the referee, cashed it in, and he ended up pinning Hudson and taking the title away from him. That was an interesting development.
His
His guy from
painful way to lose your championship.
yeah, a guy from his own crew took it away. So
Gold is it's a hard thing to pass on.
yeah. And then for the heavyweight championship, Filth King Brubaker versus Jason Hades versus the champ Justin Jones. And that was a triple threat elimination match, eventually won by the Filth King Brubaker.
So he's now the new champion there?
He is the new champion.
Brubaker's, he's impressive. He is very impressive.
And there were shenanigans. Now, I don't know the history of the organization, so they have a GM named Aaron Xavier who must work in the ring, but he came out in a business suit at the start and said he likes his new role. But at the end of the match, a masked someone snuck out and attacked Justice Jones and made it possible for Filth King Brubaker to win. And it turned out to be Xavier, so he and Justice Jones must have had some kind of history leading up to that, but I don't know what it was. But that was it. That was Crash Tested Wrestling. It was a quick drive. One of the things I was telling my wife one of the things I really love about going to wrestling shows in Indiana, part of the experience for me now is getting in the car and driving, Route 30, Route 2, 421, just a nice, relaxing ride. I can listen to a podcast or some tunes and kind of decompress. And that, to me, that's now part of the experience. Yeah. Driving on 8094 for an hour to get to Markham is extremely stressful, which I knew. And that actually affects, I didn't not have a good time, but that affects kind of the whole mindset I'm in once I get out there. It was really weird.
Funny you say that. Yesterday, as I was driving down 421 listening to my podcast, I got to watch. I realized that there was like little towns out there that are completely flooded. It was interesting.
Oh, yeah.
This is the part of the state that like the 3 people that live here is completely flooded. It was like a town right, I want to say north of Saint Pierre. Like I could not believe how much water they just had. All these roads were completely flooded out. They had 421 was okay, but you'd see a road right next, running perpendicular to it that you couldn't. It was a lake. It went into a lake. So that was something interesting to see. Plus, I like to make fun of Saint Pierre as I drive through it. I go, now, this is a place that has not been graced by someone like me that could actually improve its economy. Well, shout out to all our Saint Pierre listeners. I made fun of you.
What are you waiting for? They need you.
They couldn't pay me.
It was better than the drive we had going through Linden, Indiana. It was just north of Crawfordsville on the way in. There was a police standoff where we had to get rerouted. Apparently,
oh wow,
yeah. Apparently, there was a SWAT team was down there. The fire department was blocking off the road. They didn't want anybody going through that town, but we had no choice. It was the only way we could go. So it did not finish. The standoff started before we got there. I don't think it stopped until at least 7 p.m. And when we brought it up to a few of the people, they're like, "Oh, it's Linden? It must have been a meth lab." Not to disparage the people of Linden. We don't know you folks. Your town seems nice for all of 2 minutes we drive through it. So
I'm happy that we got to insult random small towns in Indiana today. That is my main goal, is to insult random small towns.
Well, I mean, WVLP is Valpo's community radio station. All these other towns, forget them.
No.
To transition into your report, we're not only on the show, but you are my official WVLP NGW correspondent. So thank you for playing this role. Yep. And you're going to let everybody know what happened at that show down in Crawfordsville. And one of the reasons I like to do this is because a lot of the people on the show are familiar to listeners because they also appear on a lot of the shows that I talk about on a fairly regular basis, like you guys. So I'm going to transition into this because part of the show was the part you were in, and I'm really interested in hearing what happened there because Pops Bambino writes on Facebook that last night in NGW Crawfordsville, the Bambino family was screwed over by NGW Commissioner Miss Valentine. The Bambino family won the match against Pinnacle FC and earned the tag team title match at the 10-year anniversary show in April. But the opportunity was stolen away, citing that the Bambino family cheated their way to victory. And now as punishment on April 28th, the Bambino family must take on the WWE Hall of Famers, the Rock and Roll Express.
Well, first things first. The Bambino family has been going for the last, I would almost say, a full year at this point. They have not won a match without cheating in some way, shape, or form, or some type of shenanigans. Them facing the Rock and Roll Express is going to be Ricky and Robert teaching those boys a lesson. And to top things off, the Rock and Roll Express are getting a former commissioner for NGW is going to be managing them, who knows every trick in the book. Some people like to say Ric Flair is the dirtiest man in the game. Brandon Westbrook is the dirtiest man. Sorry, Brandon Kruger, I believe. Is that his name?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, Brandon. I just know Brandon. I've only met him. He was gone by the time we came in. Very briefly met him. Brandon is the dirtiest man in the history of NGW. And he knows a thing or two. And he's going to help the Rock and Roll Express with every single possible trick the Bambinos are going to pull. Yes, they did have, the decision was reversed last night. We did get pinned, but unfortunately, the only way that happened is we hit our finisher, the Muscle Symphony, on was Vinny, correct? Yeah, Vinny, he's a small one.
Yep.
Yeah, we hit our finishing move on Vinny, and we had the pin. And unfortunately, Pops saw fit to grab the ref's ankle, pull him to the side, and during that time, Dom popped in and hit me across the back pretty hard, back of the head and back of the shoulders with a crutch. And turned around, and when TK went to see what just happened, he was blindsided and popped in the face with it as well. Unfortunately, the pinfall happened. We thought we were out of it. Miss Nina Valentine was not happy with it. She came out, reversed the decision, gave us our title shot, which is essentially a rematch for the two lads who took the belts off of us last month, unfortunately. Mr. Jason Levi and Luis Rojas with his their manager, Miss Allie, I believe is the name she goes by.
That's how I believe it goes.
Yeah, so that's we're getting our rematch essentially. We had to fight for a rematch for it, and that's the way it shakes out. So April 28th, it's going to be us versus those two, Rojas and Levi with Miss Allie, and it's going to be the Bambinos getting a very stern lesson from the Rock and Roll Express.
So you should come out, and you get to see us get our belts back, which is very important to us because we make more money when we have gold around our waist, and we pay for drinks less when we have gold around our waist.
And of course, the Bambinos get the comeuppance. That's what we really are interested in.
That's also very interesting to see, which I can understand how somebody who does not follow NGW might be more interested in, but you should also be pretty psyched about Pinnacle FC getting their belts back. That being said, I was trying to think earlier who's actually beat us cleanly. I don't know.
Since me and you started tagging up, no one's beat us cleanly.
I don't think we've ever had anybody able to beat us cleanly. We've been beaten by the Beanos one other time.
Yeah, and that was blindsided.
Was after they gave me a low blow.
That was an elimination
which
match.
was really cool. I very much appreciated that. So I was psyched when we had a little matchup last night, and we gotta beat them up for a while. That was pretty cool. I do enjoy hitting them for that. And Rojas and Levi were able to pin us, but that was a little, brass knuckles.
We should note, yes, when we lost our belts last month. Now, we faced Rojas and Levi once before, and Miss Allie held my feet down where I could not kick out. Ref didn't see it. Last month, TK got blindsided with brass knuckles, and I got, surprise attacked as soon as that was over. They got involved and pulled all their stuff yet again.
The issue usually ends up coming to be is if we're trying to see how long we can go, because usually our matches go about 90 seconds. So every now and then we're like, man, we should probably, throw them around for a few more minutes to make sure our cardio is up in case we actually ever get real challengers. And then when we do that, that always seems to give somebody a few minutes long enough to come up with an idea of like, but what if we hit them with a heavy object? And then we get whacked in the head with something a little harder than a fist, and that's usually the only thing that slows us down for a 3 count.
Yep.
So hopefully on April they don't get a chance to throw any brass knuckles at us, and we'll get our gold back.
So other than the fact that nothing is routine, there is nothing routine for Pinnacle FC at NGW so far.
Winning.
Usually it's winning. Usually.
The fans really like us down there.
That they do.
They like us a lot more down there than up here. They seem to appreciate Pinnacle FC. I sold crazy amount of T-shirts there last night. You know how many Pinnacle? None up here. You know why? Because they're mean people up here. Okay.
That's because you make fun of them on the way up.
Debatable. I more or less pick out what poor
towns we drive through.
hygiene they have. Okay. Now, how many times I've had a kid spit at me in Crawfordsville? 0. Okay.
How many times has it happened to Mom, mate?
More than 0. More than 0. I've been spat upon. I've had kids try to punch me, and kids actually punch me. So, I dislike them a little more up here.
I can see why. So what else happened on this show?
Well, first, we're just going to run down the card here.
It's Paragon and Myers.
Yeah, Paragon and Justin Myers opened up the show. We had El Muchacho versus Apollo Star for the second match. Mr. Douglas Stout versus Dave Allen, a friend of the WVLP. We had Jay Maddox and Kenny Cage take on, this name is going to make me laugh if I'm getting through it, Maximum Muscle Overdrive. And that would have been the tag team of Cliff Caviar and Kyle Kaler.
They've been studying our stuff.
Yeah, they're trying to take over after us, right?
If there were two people that I would not associate with the name Maximum Muscle Overdrive, it would be Cliff Caviar and Kyle Kaler.
They had muscle shirts on, and they tore. Well, one of them needed help tearing it off last night. The Bambinos versus Pinnacle FC was the match just before intermission. There was Bentley Alexander Dawson versus Shadow Dragon, and then Bomb Shelter versus Thomas Keith, Luis Rojas, and Jason Levi in a 6-man tag match. And then the NGW Championship, which is held by Mr. Jeremy Hadley, versus Kenneth James for the main event of the evening.
Which is a pretty good main event.
Yeah.
It was fun to watch.
Last night, we would be remiss if we did not acknowledge the fact that our show started late at NGW last night. We were talking about before off the air. The ring trailer, the axle had broke just before taking off, so NGW officials had to call in a favor from New Wave Pro Wrestling based out of Terre Haute, Indiana, and they brought a ring for us to use. Unfortunately, we couldn't get it there early enough to start the show on time, so we started late. Everyone got in and got the ring set up in like 15 minutes and went right into the show. The fans were still there. They were enjoying it. They had a great time, so we apologize to them for starting so late, but we got started on and all there from there. It was fantastic. It's great to see other companies that really just trying to help each other out. Just goes to prove that.
Definitely kudos to them for pitching in like that on short notice.
You have to give them a hand for being able to get out to us and help us with the ring, and then you have to give a hand to the fans for sticking, because they walked in and saw no ring, and we had to tell them, we're like, hey, we swear we have a ring coming in, and they waited. They waited. They watched us set it up. We got it up really quick.
Did you make them help?
I asked. There's a few fans that got some guns on them. I was like, hey, you want to throw some lumber up on here? So they waited, and they stayed hot throughout the night. That's one of those things where you do, and you're like, when you're coming up, you're terrified because you're like, I don't know if we're gonna have them for tonight. I've had to shows where you walk out and there might be a small crowd, but they could still be hot. We've had where you have a crowd and you're like, I don't think they're wrestling fans. Like, I don't know why they're here. And you try to have a match, and they just sit there, and you're like, I don't think we're in Japan. I thought they'd react, but they do nothing, and that is the worst feeling. I'd much rather get a kid trying to jump the barrier to rip my face off.
Or spit.
Versus,
so you do like it, really deep down.
I want a reaction from every fan. If it's love or if it's hate. But when I get a reaction from the fans, when I first came out of NGW and they had no clue who I was, they just looked at me and they're like, who is this? And I was like, I need to figure out how to get them to care about me. And that was a quick lesson. And that is the worst feeling. And that was the thing. I was absolutely terrified that we were going to get no reactions out of them because they were going to be upset with us. But they did not, and they gave us a lot. And I very much am thankful for that.
That's great. That's great. Is there something to be said that when Pinnacle FC is on the card, it could be like a Guns N' Roses concert where Axl just, he'll come out when he wants to come out. Is there something to be said with making the people wait to see Pinnacle FC to raise their level of anticipation?
I always want to be first on the card, regardless of if I have all the gold, none of the gold. If they know me, they don't meet. I want to be out there match one. I always want to go, so I never want to make them wait. It just means that
we're more prepared. We can change. We can get out there during intermission and sell some merchandise. That's all it is.
Basically, so I can make more money.
But there's that, and the fact that it's we last month we actually, in spite of the fact that we lost the championship belts the very first match of the night, we kind of take pride in the fact that we set the tone for the rest of the night. We went out. We didn't do anything super crazy, but we did enough, and we got enough energy going. We got an upbeat song. Fans clap along the minute they hear the drum beats at the beginning of our song, and And that just sets it off for us. So we go out, we have fun. We make fun of the Bambinos every time we're out
Oh,
there
you should
wrestling.
have seen it.
Oh,
We,
yeah.
we
Yeah, you know,
did
they
a
do
little
the
kiss-off.
kiss on the side of the cheek. Yeah.
We had a little kiss off between
decided,
our two
why not?
teams, and you would not believe the amount of reaction a little kiss off can get out of people.
Poor Zoran, the referee last night, man. That guy had his hands full trying to keep them from getting at us before we even started the
they
match.
were losing their minds. They did not appreciate that.
No,
I
they
don't
did
know.
not. Fans did. Fans
Oh,
did.
the
They
fans
loved it. Yeah.
appreciate it.
So.
All right. Well, that's a good rundown of what's been going on locally. So get comfortable. We're going to take a really quick break. I'm going to kind of get back into mostly metal mode and play an instrumental metal song that'll last about 3 minutes just so we can make sure we're set up for next. And JC, this is your cue to try to call in. And so we'll get you on the air next. Stick around for a little bit more not mostly metal, not right now, Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program here on WVLP. All right, now that the song finally kicked in, I'm going to pipe it down so we can start talking again. JC, can you hear us?
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay, I'm going to go around the room here and make sure that you can hear everybody you're supposed to hear. To my left is Drex Odell.
How's it going, mate?
Whoops.
How's it going?
That buzzing isn't supposed to happen. There we go. And to his left and my right, Mr. TK0.
Hey, how are you doing?
How's it going, fellas?
And can you hear both of them okay, and me as well? JC?
Yeah, I'm here. Yep.
Okay, you can hear all three people?
Yep.
All right, then we are ready to go. So the music break that I just took was not the song I intended to play. I intended to play a song called Martial Arts by Royal Hunt, which is a really fast, intricate 3-minute metal instrumental. And when I prepare the show, I'll put the sets together and make one big sound file, copy them onto a disc. So I just have everything I want to play on one disc. And I must have drugged the wrong song across from the Royal Hunt disc onto this. I was too excited to be in the same room as Pinnacle FC and on the phone with JC Bunyan, and I screwed up. And so apologies to everybody out there. So let me remind everybody that we are on the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program. This is WVLP 103.1 FM in Valparaiso, Indiana. You can also catch us streaming on WVLP.org and also the TuneIn radio app. And JC, you were keeping up just a little bit on the live stream. Did that sound okay for you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're like an hour and a half away from here out in Warsaw. So the gerbils that are powering our signal and sending it onto the live stream, they're kicking up enough energy to at least make the signal get out to Warsaw pretty good.
Yeah, the gerbils are kicking well over here, man. I can hear you guys loud and clear.
Okay, excellent. Well, we didn't invite you here just for fun and games. You have a job to do, mister, and that is to tell us what went down at Functified Wrestling's Rampage event last night out in Warsaw. We've talked about two events that happened closer to home here already, and so we want to hear what went on out there, and in particular, anything that you had to do with the event.
Boy, there's stories upon stories going on right now in the FWF between there's new and some existing that are continuing to build. Last night, Rampage started off with, I'm sure you've heard our new commissioner, Jason Maples.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He had a couple of big announcements. Right to kick off the show, he came out and talked about our next upcoming show in March on the 24th called Crossfire. And then the big announcement, we got a big crowd pop. Sold out last night, Ken. We're at the Center Lake Pavilion, and we're looking at capacity being around 250 to 300 people, and there was standing room only. So
that's great.
Big crowd. But Jason continued on with his announcement. April 7th, back in Warsaw at the Center Lake Pavilion, we're going to have a joint show with Functified Wrestling Federation teaming up with Heroes and Legends. So that is a really big deal and something nice. It's going to bring some talent merging together from FWF and Heroes and Legends in Warsaw.
Mm-hmm. Jason's expanding his empire.
Yeah, absolutely. So we expect some big things here in the next few months with FWF and continuing on with Commissioner Mr. Maples. He's doing big things, good things. I'm happy to see it.
That's good.
beyond that, we started off last night. The crowd was hot all night long. We had just there. You've been down there, Ken. We just have a following, and they've continued now for almost 5 years, and they're always strong. They're always hungry, and they're always ready to be loud and get down and dirty. But last night, opening bout, we had James Rampage making his FWF debut against Jorge Bravo, who was making a return. He had been out several months. So in his big FWF returning fashion, he went over strong against James Rampage. No blood lost there. They shook hands and everything was good, towards the end of the match. And these guys, they showed great sportsmanship throughout the evening. Match number 2 was a newcomer match. Also, we had a lot of newcomers last night in several matches actually. So we had Unchained Brandon Day making his FWF debut against Rick Vidal, who is also making his FWF debut. Unchained Brandon Day going over convincing fashion. I mean, this guy, he's a brute. He's strong. Just looking at him, he looks like a tough individual to be in a squared circle with. So I got my eyes on him just in case, something happens in the future. But match number 3, we have the Midwest Monsters coming out versus the New School, which sure you know, Kevin Storm and Noah Walker. That was a no countouts match, but it ended up in a double disqualification. Double DQ. Both Kevin Storm and Jerry Brutus Dillon got a little excited out there, had a couple of chairs. Tank took a chair. Noah Walker took a chair. Double count out, which leads into Maples, a little mic piece talking about the 324 Crossfire. They set up another match. This match for the 24th will be a no DQs, no countouts, Warsaw street fight.
And they're already chirping at each other on Facebook about this too. I've seen.
Yeah, this is lit. This angle. I mean, you've seen this. This is something that has been building for a while. Between Kevin and Noah, they're fairly mouthy individuals, and Tank and Brutus Dillon, they take no bull. So, with that being said, I think that's going to be one for the record books. I don't think people are going to want to miss. Going in with match number 4. Match number 4 was another hometown hero, Cletus the Farmer, versus SWAT member 145.
SWAT member 144 wasn't able to be there, huh?
No 144. Last month, if you remember correctly, Cletus, he was victorious over SWAT member 115. So he's kind of beginning to build up a tolerance and getting some of these numbers down on these SWAT guys. Has
anybody finally found out how many SWAT members there are?
Yeah, I think I've seen 7 or 8 different numbers, ranging from ranging from numbers SWAT member 76 to I've seen all the way up to 160 something.
Just look out the 316.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But that was a good match. Cletus, we've had an alliance here for a long time, and I made sure and kept a close eye on that match because Rod Street accompanied SWAT member 145 to the ring. So I knew the antics were going to be in the air. And never see this to amaze you. When Rod Street's around, what happens? They had a little mace incident gone wrong. Tried Mason Cletus in the face. They end up getting their own SWAT member, Evalanis did. And then from there, SWAT member 145 takes the SWAT bucket. So, Cletus became another big victory. I mean, that's a huge momentum swing for him. That's I believe 2 in a row for him against the SWAT team member. So, right now.
So is he basically fighting his way through to try to get at Rod Street?
I think he's trying. I think he's pushing towards a title shot now. Whether or not Rod Street will continue to hold that belt, that's still to be determined, and he's fighting for that every day.
Well, I know that. I know that with Drex in the room, if I'm allowed to mix our promotions here a little bit, you've had that kind of experience at ACW where you had to go through hurdle after hurdle after hurdle to get to your prize.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's,
boy. Yep.
it's unbelievable, man. When these commissioners, these GMs that make us go through, I just don't get it. They have too much power some days.
Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely not. I'm not. I'm used to Rod Street's antics in and out of the ring. I think any trick he's gotten up his sleeve, I've probably seen over over the RCW history we've had. We've had quite a big feud in FWF as well. Back when I was tagging with Tank, we had a big feud with the police department, and then here just recently I finished up with him. And you just can't get past the numbers and refs that they can't regulate all of it when there's strength in numbers. It's difficult. So but Cletus, like I said, he's managing that beast right there and doing a great job against all odds. So from there we had another great match. JD Smooth, Mr. Entertainment, he's a little
The hairy toothpick.
upset about losing the company to Mr. Maples. He had a match against Celtic Nightmare. It was a great match. Smoothie doing his normal. And towards the end, I Celtic had him all wrapped up, and I just knew that he was going to come out victorious. All of a sudden, Unchained Brandon Day comes out of nowhere, out of the curtain, and just smashes Celtic Nightmare in the back of the head with a chain. It looks like JD Smooth has hired some outside guns, and that's the price we're going to pay for trying to get a good commissioner into the company, and getting somebody to stand by. But we'll see where that develops. So JD Smooth victorious in match number 5 last night.
Okay. Hey, let me interrupt you here. How many matches were there altogether?
We had, I believe that would take us into intermission, and then on the backside there was 4 more matches for the evening. So I believe a total of 9.
Okay.
So.
Okay, good. If you had said like 13, I would have been worried. But
right, yeah. No, we had, I believe, 9 matches last night. So. We had right after intermission, it was real hot. 2 more newcomers. Like I said, last night was just a big evening for debuts for some new talent. It was kind of a great evening and everybody meshed well. We had Sedan versus DW Kelly, and they can light up a room and they put on a show when they come out, for sure. And that was a great match. DW Kelly comes out victorious. And he relays a friendly gesture in the center of the ring and he extends a hand to give a handshake. And for whatever reason, poor display of sportsmanship, Sedan didn't take the handshake and just decided to pummel DW Kelly right there in the center of the ring. So that obviously I would imagine there's some going to be retaliation and cause for concern on DW's part, and he's going to have to watch his back and hope that next month things don't go south for him with Sedan.
Right.
So. And then moving on from there, the next match was match number 7. That was Brian Defiance and Jacob Braun versus Fireball and myself. The first time that Fireball and I have combined forces in the ring is in FWF. So we kind of last night were able to showcase the new alliance within Funkified. Forest Fire. It kind of caught on. The fans are really last night they ate it up. They made signs and they're calling us Forest Fire.
That's great.
So,
That's pretty good.
That is a good name, yeah.
A little natural disaster, I suppose, if you will. It's a devastating natural disaster. So you look at it out on the West Coast. I dig it. I can follow it, and I'm vibing with it. So I think Fireball and I are both in agreement that Forest Fire moving forward, is going to be a tag team to reckon with in the FWF. We came up out on top last night.
That's great.
Brian, I've had some run-ins with him in the past. Defiance as well. So I wasn't at least a bit surprised at any of their shenanigans, and Fireball he stood out and did his thing, and 2 spears took out Mr. Defiance, and and Braun and I brawl out at the end. 1, 2, 3. Great match. Great match. Fans were hot for it. Like I said, FWF, my hometown, Warsaw. So I try to make sure and give those guys something to hoot and holler for every week. Week in, week out. So match number 8 was the rivalry going on right now. It's another giant story that's been feuding and sizzling for months now. Is Matt O'Hare versus Lightning Bolt. Last month Lightning Bolt was called out to not wrestle per doctor's orders. He went against doctor's orders on a knee injury from the previous month. Wrestled Matt O'Hare. Last night was no different. Matt continued to work the same knee all night long, jabbering his jaws and
He's good at that.
over people just like he does. He slobbers and spits and just looks ugly out there every so often. But
So you're not a fan. I take it you're not a fan.
No, him and I have big history between RCW and FWF all over. We've got some serious history and beef between the two of us, So, and that even goes back into the locker room, I guess. But anyway, LBJ, I'm standing there and watching the match, and I think he's got it all sewn up with the bike kick. Just like you've seen 100 times, and Matt O'Hare grabs the ref, throws the ref in front of him. The ref does get a chance to move, but Lightning Bolt doesn't get off of the kick. O'Hare kicks him in the gut, goes down, flying elbow, typical Hair fashion, cheating to get the victory using the ref. Not surprised. Sorry to my buddy LBJ and tag team partner, Lumber and Lightning, but just another tough one, and I think LBJ really wants a chance to reverse this on him next month at Crossfire. We'll see if that happens or not. I know talking to LBJ last night, he was interested in a rematch. So, which brings us to our main event of the evening, which was Cosmo gave up the company after winning it from JD Smooth to Commissioner Jason Naples. So with that being said, Jason gave Cosmo a first heavyweight title shot within the FWF. And that was a great match. Rod pulling out all the stops, we all know Rod Street's bald. Officer Rod Street doesn't have any hair. But everybody pulls his hair.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone.
He's very sensitive about that.
Yeah. I mean, you always hear something about it. He pulled my hair. But that didn't stop last night. And off his first title shot, Cosmo looks stoned. He had it all sewn up. Missile drop kick. He's going for the cover at the end. 1, 2, 3. And Unchained Brandon Day, JD Smooth, come running out and pull the ref. Pull the ref, throw him into a pole. That stops everything. DQ, Cosmo wins, but the title obviously doesn't change hands. Jason Naples stands up, grabs the mic. He's infuriated. JD's trying everything he can do to get this company back, and I don't blame him. He had it for a long time, but so Jason gets on the mic. He's furious. So a little excitement that Jason saw out of all of this. Midwest Monsters come running out and get Unchained Brandon Day and Smoothie off the ref, off of Cosmo, and Naples makes a big announcement for Crossfire March 24th. It's going to be Team Smoothie versus Team Cosmo. This is a 5-on-5. We've got the couple men. We got JD Smooth, Unchained Brandon Day announced for Team Smoothie. We've got the Midwest Monsters and Tank and Brutus Dillon, and also Cosmo for Team Cosmo. So it'll be interesting to see who they add to make up the 5-on-5 roster there. That's going to be kind of an exciting one to watch unfold, I think.
That's great.
So,
Okay, well, yeah. Thanks for that information, because a lot of those names are familiar to me and the guys here at the table, and a lot of folks. All the hordes of people that are out there listening. If they've heard me talk, they've heard a lot of these names before. And it sounds so. March 24th, Crossfire is the next event. It sounds like a lot of that stuff is already lined up, and I like. To me, it's interesting when there's something going on like right now with the people in contest over the ownership of the company, because that makes it's not just this person against that person. You know that affects everybody, and you never know when something might develop during a match.
Right, absolutely. And with that being said, that 5-on-5, Jason announced if JD's team wins in March, he gets the company back, but if he loses, he will never wrestle again in Warsaw.
Some serious stakes.
So there's some real serious heat involved with this red angle.
Okay. Well, I'm learning that I might be spending a lot of money on gas the next couple of months, because maybe a trip to Warsaw will be in order in March, and a trip to Crawfordsville will definitely be in order in April. What I'm going to do is, with that finished up, I'm going to hand it back over to Drex Odell and TK0 to talk about the next upcoming NGW show. And they went through the card from that show last night. But if they want to mention winners or any special events that came out of that. And JC, you are welcome to hang on the line and add any commentary that you would like as we're doing this.
All right, great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. As we said before, we took a little break. We ran down the card, and I'll kind of go through it a little bit here with the winners and losers of last night and all the stuff that's coming up. The very first match of the night was Justin Myers versus Paragon. Yeah. He's been on one previous show at NGW. This is his second time there. He's very impressive gear. He's got a nice look. He's pretty intelligent sounding wrestler. He's got a lot to say to the fans.
He'll take off. He's super green. He's so new, but he's going to take off.
He's got a lot. He's got an it factor
like
to him.
Bambinos, where you see him came out and you're like, I know they're going to be something pretty soon.
Justin Myers, former NGW champion, was victorious in the opener of the night. El Muchacho took on a newcomer to NGW, Mr. Apollo Star. He was victorious in that as well. Match number 3 had Mr. Douglas Stout versus Dave Allen. Dave Allen, as usual, Dave Allen wins. Jay Maddox and Kenny Cage took on Maximum Muscle Overdrive, which is the tag team of Kyle Kayla and Cliff Caviar, as we all know. Cliff has been putting some time in the gym. He's definitely put on some size, but it's an interesting name for those two.
Total combined weight of 164 pounds.
Oh, come on now. I got to give him a little bit more than that. I think Cliff is actually almost at that weight finally himself, so he's been putting work in. I got to give him a lot of credit. Unfortunately, they did not come out victorious. Maddox and Kenny Cage, who are forming a little bit of an alliance with Bentley Alexander Dawson down there, they came out on top on that. We kind of ran through a little bit of it with us. It was the Bambinos versus Pinnacle FC. Myself and TK here, and unfortunately, Bambino saw fit to cheat to win that match, and it was for a number 1 contendership for the NGW Tag Team Championships, which TK and I unfortunately lost last month to Mr. Luis Rojas and Jason Levi, Miss Sally. We're going to get the rematch in April 28th, and the Bambinos are going to get a hard-taught lesson against the Rock and Roll Express, the WWE Hall of Famers. Pops is also going to have his hands full because Mr. Brannon is going to be managing the Rock and Roll Express at that show.
Which, before we forget,
yes, we should note this.
There is a seminar with Rock and Roll.
So for any of wrestlers that might be listening to the show right now, I know quite a few do. I do. In all the years that many of the vets that we're friends with and we've worked with and trained with, they've never seen a tag team seminar ever. And it's a tag team seminar. So if you're interested in that, I've got an email address for you. You need to contact ngwindiana@yahoo.com and let them know you're interested. I believe the seminar is $40, and it's I think they're shooting for about 2.5 hours. So that's something that everyone should take care of, whether you're a singles or a tag team wrestler. That's what you need to look at. Then there was an admission. After that match, it was Bentley Alexander Dawson, BAD, versus Shadow Dragon. After the match, BAD went after Dragon with a belt, which I believe is Indiana Hoosier State title that he stole from Gideon last month, which we had to come out and make a save because Jay Maddox and Kenny Cage were attacking him. And then Gideon's music hit, and superfan number 75, since we're going to borrow something from Rod Street's guys, he popped out of the crowd. It actually was Gideon wearing a different mask that looks unlike any of the masks that he normally would wear, and attacked BAD. So
is Gideon also one of the SWAT members?
Oh, good. If they could find a SWAT suit to fit Gideon, that man is a large, impressive man. So
You'd scare me if I saw
Yeah,
a
exactly.
like that coming after me.
after the match, that was the Bomb Shelter versus Thomas Keith, Luis Rojas, and Jason Levi. And Rojas and Levi and Thomas Keith beat Bomb Shelter on that. And for the final match of the evening for the main event for the NGW Tag Team Championship was Kenneth James versus Mr. Jeremy Hadley. That was a very, very good match. I expect nothing less from either one of those two. In that match, Jeremy Hadley pulled the ref in the way as well, and I believe used a foreign object as well to.
I'm pretty sure it's brass knuckles.
It's probably shiny. Well, they were definitely like silverish, so not brass. But I used some knuckle dusters and beat them. But unfortunately, that's the way it goes. April 28th is the anniversary show. There is another show in March 31st, which is going to see the debut of a new tag team down there. The Top Guns will be down at NGW March 31st. And there's going to be a newcomer. I believe his name is Levi Everett. I believe he's an Amish wrestler. So that should be something interesting down there at NGW.
I would hate to be his beard. Someone's going to pull it.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to say the least.
Is he allowed to use entrance music?
I don't know. I mean, you know what? I believe
actually a good
is it the Amish are allowed at work? They're allowed to use electricity at work, but not at home. I think.
Like as long as
so.
Rights and Roll keeps coming out
Technically-
with those donuts, they can do whatever,
Yeah,
they do whatever they want. They bring them donuts.
but I know that we would really want to make sure that we covered stuff for NGW because this is not necessarily the fans up here may not make the trek down there, but it's worthwhile. They're a great company. They're a great group of people down there. The fans are fantastic. They're a completely different breed than what you see up here.
But shout out before we forget, ACW does have 2 shows next month.
Oh yeah, there's
On
that
the
as well.
9th
We're gonna
and
get
the
that.
16th, I believe, right?
Yeah, but before we go any further, for the April show for NGW, tickets must be bought at Brown Paper Tickets. I know I shared a link earlier about it and all that. So I believe the $20, they come with a ticket for another show and like a hot dog and popcorn or something. It's got the details
It
on
comes
there,
with
but
some food and drink.
there's only 40 front row seats,
And they're
and I believe
halfway
16 to 25 are already sold 2 months in advance, and then the rest of the show, GA people are buying. So
Come to find out, Pinnacle FC is a big draw.
yeah.
Go
I mean,
figure.
it might have something to do with some Hall of Famers, but we're going to take the credit
I mean,
for it, right?
we
Yeah.
are Hall of Famers, so
Well, how did you get them to come there other than just to say, well, you'll get to meet Pinnacle FC?
Well,
that's what
exactly.
I assume they said. They
Yeah.
said, yeah, we got Pinnacle FC, and they said, well,
So all we need to do now is trick Ricky and Robert into giving us an endorsement, right?
that's
Yeah, there you go.
I'm going to get that.
Right.
Well, I hate to. Well, you guys do have a clock facing you, right?
Yeah.
We do.
This-
we
this-
got 2 or 3 more minutes.
At
baby. I can keep
least,
on.
how are we going to fill all the time? This never fails. When I'm doing this with one person, I started doing half an hour, and then it turned out that wasn't enough. So I thought, well, I'll do 45 minutes. And then I came in, like last week, I had Jimmy Holmes and John Hudson here. I said,
Come
well, let's
to
take
find
it for
out.
an hour. And
Hustlers like to talk.
yeah, and then here I got 3 of you, 2 in the studio, 1 on the line, and now we're using up an hour, and still we didn't get to play the game. But because there's so much interconnection and relationships, so that let's just make sure we got everything straight. So NGW has the show in April. Is there another NGW
Yes,
show in
there's,
between now and then?
March 31st, NGW has another show coming up. That is, like I said, that's a debut of the Top Guns. They're going to come down there. Levi Everett. I don't necessarily think there's really anything hardcore set up. It's going to be just another good show as usual.
Mm-hmm.
And then ACW's got March 9th. We're at the DeMott Boxing Club. As you were talking about earlier, I don't know who my opponent is. I've got a couple of people that have been contacting me that are challenging me directly, and I keep trying to forward them over to Michael Allen. But there's 3 particular names that keep contacting me, wanting to face me, and then maybe Michael Allen will have to pull a couple strings and do a fatal 4-way or something. Mr. Aiden Way out in California. Mr. Brandon Dillinger, I believe he's out in North Carolina, and then the Calamity from the Sky, Kenji Brea. He's makes his home all over the South right now. He's based out of, I believe, Georgia and Tennessee and all that. I don't know. These guys are contacting me. They want to face me. I'm, trying to get Michael Allen to take a look at them instead of giving me the short end of the stick, to say the least, with all the guys he's decided to pull some strings and get against me. I don't know what else to do. And I even heard John Hudson say he wanted to come after my belt. So I don't know what's going to happen now.
Everybody comes for the mountaintop.
Yeah.
Everybody comes after it.
There's only one way, down.
That's all. You remember last time I was on here, I talked for a good 20 minutes how our GM in ACW keeps trying to screw over my man Drex Odell over here.
It was a theme.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's a jerk.
JC, are you still there?
Yeah.
All right. So one more time, real fast. You mentioned 2 dates coming up for FWF: 1 March, 1 April. Can you say those again?
Yeah, Crossfire, March 24th, right back at the Center Lake Pavilion, and then we turn around the 2-week flip, April 7th. That's the joint FWF Heroes and Legends show right back at again the Center Lake Pavilion in Warsaw. 2 big dates.
That's great. And if I've got my hearing on straight, the miracle is that none of these shows are sitting on top of one of the other ones, unless I miss something.
We don't have to fight each other about telling which fans to come to which show.
Yeah, exactly.
I appreciate that we don't have to go into that where, I know you have a show, but I also have a show. So that's always good.
Well, like last night, there were shows all over the place. March 10th, there's going to be 3 shows like within an hour and a half of here, all on the same night. So it can get crazy. But at least in this case, we don't need to worry about that. And I'll put in my own cheapo plug here that I've got a Google Calendar, NWIWRAP, NWIWRAP at gmail.com. And it should be open to public subscription. And I do put in as many of these shows as I come across. And so you can actually see, like last night, 3 big colored blocks all sitting right on top of one another. But yeah, you folks can keep up on what's coming up in the near future that way. So I have to cut this short because I know that my friends at Punk Rock Radio will get angry if their replay doesn't start on time. So thank you, gentlemen, very much for coming in and visiting.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, JC, for calling in and spending some time with us. And we'll hopefully maybe get you out here in the studio someday if you're in the neighborhood for some other reason, or if you just want to drive an hour and a half. What the heck?
Oh, yeah. Hey, I'm always down for the drive. Hey, that's what we do, right, fellas?
So that's what we do, mate. That's what we do every weekend, right?
Yeah.
That's what
nothing.
TK was looking at me like, an hour and a half? What are you talking about? I can do that in my sleep.
I do have the time.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. It's been a lot of fun. This has been the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program, and it's time to turn it over to Punk Rock Radio.